Hey, it's Sunday, and I thought it would be a great day to do 9 most common factual inaccuracies because you're going to see these all the time if you do this professionally. But even if you don't, if you're working on your own file, then you are more than likely going to see these. And I'm going to show you how to use them to get your deletions. And we're actually going to start with the least potent, which is going to be missing creditor name and account number. And then I'm going to give you two of my biggest smoking guns, and that is data loss activity and date verified discrepancies. All right. So make sure you watch all the way to the end because you don't want to miss anything on these most common errors, because if you don't know, then you won't be able to use them to get your deletions. All right. So let's get started. Missing creditor name and account number. And again, like I said, we're starting with the least potent. Okay. So an example of this would just be to list that the account is incomplete. For example, it's missing the date of last payment, right? So delete it. Now, the credit bureaus may just correct and update it. And if that happens, you should get the docs from the creditor to verify that the bureau updated correctly. Don't think that you can't contact the creditor, because you can. Now, most people think that you can only contact them using the 623 dispute, and that is not the case. We want to fact check the bureau, okay? And in some cases, the creditor is going to have no record of the account and the bureau didn't actually update anything, okay? So if this happens, that they state that there's no record, use the letter to get a deletion. Now, the next one is incorrect balances, and this is probably not what you're thinking. This is most common with collections because some debt collectors want to inflict as much damage as possible to the consumer's credit score in order to coerce them into paying, right? And you can't even lie and say that you haven't heard about this. So you want to look for balances that are higher than the high balance. Obviously, that is a mathematical impossibility, but it happens. If the account has been sold or transferred to another lender or collector, the balance on the original account should be zero. If the account is a paid charge off or paid collection and is being reported correctly, it may not be smart or necessary to try to remove it. Remember, we're only trying to remove things that are going to increase the score, and that's not going to cause you more trouble than anything else, okay? So if positive and transferred are sold, but the original still showing open with a zero balance and nothing derogatory, just leave it alone. There's nothing to do, okay? The next one is incorrect credit limits, and I see this all the time. Banks will often not report the actual credit limits, but will instead use the highest balance owed as the credit limit. So a $10,000 card that has only had a $300 charge on it will show as a $300 limit. Capital One and Barclay are notorious for this. I can literally pull like 22 different credit files from this week alone and prove this to you. Now, high utilization. This can make it look like a consumer is using way more than they actually are. So you have to be careful with this, all right? So what you can try to do is mail a copy of the statement to the bureaus and ask, and yes, I see two typos, for complete reporting of the limit. And here's the reason. Believe it or not, it is to prevent consumers from building up their credit scores. Why do you guys think that they're here to help? They're not. They're here to make money. That's all that this is. The bureaus are here to make money. The creditors are here to make money. The collectors are here to make money. And that is it, okay? They're not here to help you. So they want to prevent you from getting additional credit at lower interest rates. And this helps creditors keep a larger percentage of consumers stuck subprime, okay? So if this does not work, charge the card up to the max without going over the limit and then promptly pay it back. This is an indirect tactic that I went over in the indirect dispute tactics series that you can find in my playlist, all right? Collections with a credit limit. What? A limit? Yeah, no. How can a collection have a credit limit? It should not. If you are seeing a collection with a limit, then you need to dispute it, all right? This can actually cause a lot of damage. This can afflict more damage to the score because not only does the date assigned factor into the scoring, but the credit limit does also, right? So you can go after this factually. Ask for the deletion based on inaccurate reporting of a limit on a collection. All right. So the definition of factual disputing is where you take the facts. That's why it's called factual, reported by the bureaus, creditors, and collectors, and dispute the inaccuracies backed by these facts to support your argument. All right. That is what factual disputes for credit sweeps means. Now, here's another one that you're going to see if you have a charge off that is not paid. Late pays after closed. All right. Okay, so if the account is closed or charged off, there should be no delinquencies after the close date. How is it possible that there's activity after this account is closed? If the closed charge off date is not listed on your report, you can call or write the creditor to get it. Remember, you can contact the creditor, okay? This does not mean that you are only disputing with the bureaus. All right. So supporting docs can mean the difference between a deletion and a correction. So with or without documentation, factually dispute the late pays after the close date. All right. Also keep your eye out for delinquencies for zero and incorrect notations like 4506 charged off, $123 past due, as opposed to just a $123 balance. Okay. So there's quite a bit that you can do and look for to get your deletions. But again, we are going over the most common undated late pays. Look for undated late payments. If there's no date, how do you know they're accurate? Write the bureau and ask something like this. Please provide an itemized list of the dates of all the late payments for account numbers, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Contact the creditor and get documented late payment dates and make sure they match. If the lates are after the close date, again, ask for the deletion of the item with the bureaus, all right? Incorrect account types. Another common reporting mystery is when a charge off is listed as an open account. Like, dude, how is that even possible when the account first closes and then gets charged off? It is impossible for a charge off to be an open account. It is reported as a loss, and the account must first be closed to become a charge off. This can be disputed for removal by stating that the account is listed as an open charge off and requires deletion for inaccuracy. All right. So, what's your biggest ammo? I'm glad you asked because this is number one of two of the smoking guns and can be used to remove charge-offs, collections, foreclosures, repossessions, and more. All right. So here we go. Date of last activity, just like I told you in the beginning, the DOLA. This is the timestamp of when the account was last permanently delinquent. So let's say that the date of last activity is January 2000, just to make this easier to understand. Most items will stay on your credit report for 7 years or until January 2007, right? So, however, this date can change if the date is re-aged or moved forward. So, if you find re-aging, which is incorrect reporting, you can always ask for correction. However, I asked for deletion. So, re-aging is a legitimate problem that can hurt your score and is perfectly legal and okay to ask for correction or deletion of the account that is not aged correctly. So re-aged accounts look newer and thus sellable to some third parties, right? Since the account is newer, it's also more damaging to your credit score. So this is super important. And I see this so many times. Okay. So it's not just looking for inaccuracies, it's understanding why they're inaccurate and what you can do about it, right? So check the date last active on each derogatory account across all three bureaus. They should all be the true date that you quit paying and went into default, all right? So if there's any substantial difference in the DOLA, then there's probably re-aging going on. So here is an example. A charge-off is reported to all three bureaus. One reports February 2000, the second March 2000, and the third February 1996. All right, there's a 4-year difference, and naturally you want the oldest date last active to be correct, right? So in this case, two credit bureaus probably re-age the account because reverse re-aging, meaning moving it back, is extremely rare, okay? So first, contact the creditor and ask them to document the actual true date last active. If the DOLA turns out to be 1996, dispute the two newer date last active. Even if you don't contact them, you can still dispute the date last active because obviously we're talking about a whole 4 years, okay? So the date last active is incorrect and reports as dates, delete. Or you can even throw in that the fact that it's been re-aged, okay? So if you have the docs from the creditor, you can redispute those same items with a copy of the creditor documentation showing the date last active. And again, I do see typos. I apologize for that. I didn't want to wait to make this video. I wanted to get it out to you. So don't hate about my typos. Appreciate, okay? All right, so let's go on to the next one. All right, so the next one is smoking gun number 2, and it is going to be failure to investigate. And I'm going to show you what I mean because this is pretty important. So date updated or verified, DU, discrepancies, right? So when an item comes back as verified, don't always believe it. Actually, I'm going to tell you never believe it, but let's just say don't always believe it. So credit bureau employees are under a tremendous pressure to finish disputes quickly, right? And this can result in numerous issues or errors in regards to verification and investigation of disputes. All right. So, names. All three bureaus have a different name for this. So, with Experian, it's called the date verified, Equifax, item of date reported, and TransUnion is date updated. Verification, whenever an item comes back as verified as accurate. These dates should reflect the month and year in which the verification was done. All right, so let's say that you're using Identity IQ, such as I do for clients. You're going to see date last reported. Okay, so date last reported is this date that we are referring to. And if I see that I disputed, but the date still says something that has nothing to do with, let's just say, July 2021 or beginning of August 2021, then that means that they verified, quote unquote, without investigation. All right. So many times these dates do not change and should if the bureaus properly verify the item, right? So here's an example. Just as I mentioned, in addition to the fact that you dispute an account in July 2007 and ask for a deletion. The DU is listed as March 2006. The Bureau's investigation verifies the item is accurate. The DU remains March 2006. Hello, nothing was updated and there was probably no real investigation on that item. And here is the follow up. You can follow up with something like this. And this is not the only way to follow up. On date, I disputed creditor and account number. You verified the item is accurate. However, the DU did not change. And now I put DU in the brackets because each bureau calls it something different and you want to call it what they call it. No investigation was actually done. I'm requesting deletion based upon the fact that you did not follow your procedures as outlined in the FCRA. And you don't even have to put that last statement. All right. Incorrect reporting. So this is directly from the Bennett testimony. I also see a large number of pure inaccuracy cases, those in which an individual item within a credit report is inaccurate. These types of problems, though lacking the glamour and intrigue of an identity theft, are far more common and just as damaging. Okay. So again, when you dispute and they don't update the DU, that means that they did not investigate, because if they had, they would have updated this date to be when they quote unquote verified the negative item. Okay. And you can get a deletion based on this, their failure to properly investigate. All right. So if you have questions, if you need me to clarify something, that is what the comments are for, the comment section. Okay. Head down to the comments and let me know what you're thinking. What did you think of this? You have questions? What is it that you need help with? Where are you stuck? All right. And I have a ton of resources for you. Now, if you want to continue with your do-it-yourself credit repair journey, head over to vault.my740.com and you'll find a ton of awesome, stupendous, fabulistical resources, okay? And now if you're looking for free stuff, you can go to hub.my740.com. And as usual, I have 500 videos right here on YouTube that show you how to do this yourself the right way. However, if this is something that you don't want to do, maybe it's too much for you. Maybe you don't have the time. Maybe you just don't want to invest into learning how to do it the right way. Because obviously, if you don't and you do it wrong, then you're going to be adding time to your dispute. So anyways, whatever your reason, if you want to find out if I could do the credit speed for you and get you the results that you are unable to get yourself, then head over to my740.com, schedule a call with me, and I will see if I can help. All right. So that is it for today. I appreciate you watching, and that is it, my friend. I will see you tomorrow. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. And today we went over the 9 most common factual inaccuracies for factual-based disputes. All right, so that is it. Have a great one. Have a great rest of your weekend. Like I said, have a great start of your week, and I am going to end it there. Bye.